T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Hey, y'all. Wow. What an incredible day for women's wrestling. Welcome to Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. My name is TK Trinidad, and I am not alone. I am super excited about this. She is the host for United Wrestling Network. Please welcome Emily Mae. Ooh, audio. Is it my audio or is it your audio, Emily? Ooh, somebody else speak.
I think it's Emily.
I think it's Emily's audio.
All right, maybe hop out and sign back in, I guess. Well, live TV. She is the host of In Cat We Trust. Please welcome Katrina Blake.
Hey, everybody.
Hey. She is the founder of the Cultural Commentator, and she was on the show with me for the Crown Jewel. Wow, what a watch along, 4 hours. I feel like that we deserve a prize for that. Please welcome Santana.
Hello.
And she is the host of a Wrestling Gal podcast. Please welcome Ella Jay.
Hello, I'm happy to be here.
I am so stoked. I'm trying to get through all the intros because we have a lot to talk about. Now, the most important guest, no shade to the rest of y'all ladies. She is the co-owner of Bell to Bells and the contributor for PWI. Please welcome Kristen Ashly, excuse me.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Hey.
Hey.
Woo. PWI Women's 150. First off, absolutely beautiful setup. But I feel like the last couple of maybe the last year and a half, it's been crazy for women's wrestling. There's just been a lot of women's wrestling. So how did you, because when I got to 150, I was like, there's still more. We can still do like another 50. So how did you narrow it down to one, the top 10, and then two, like 150?
Well, I mean, it's hard. I mean, we start with number one when we do these committee meetings. Because generally the most debate happens in like the top 10. That's usually where most of the debate, because as you go further down, it's not so debatable. But yeah, I mean, we got done, and there were still so many women that we wanted to include, and we just couldn't, which is, I mean, a really good testament to women's wrestling. But I mean, I would put money down that it's going to continue to grow. I mean, we started at 150 because we thought, let's keep it prestigious. But there's still a lot of women that we weren't able to include that we should have. And so I mean, it's going to continue to grow. Absolutely.
It definitely is. Now, what did you ladies think of the 150 when you got, well, I know Ella, you saw it way before we did, but when you guys saw it, like, what did you guys think of the lineup?
It was pretty solid. I was really happy about the top 10, especially because I'm such a fan of a lot of the women that were in the top 10. I mean, I'm a fan of a lot of the women that made the list in general. Like there was quite a few indie people. I'm like, yes, I love this woman. I love her. So to see her, them make the list was pretty awesome. So I was stoked. Yeah, there were people I would have liked to see, but as this being like the first time we got a solid women's list, it was a really great list for the first go.
Anybody
For
else?
me, I would say that I am happy with the number one spot being Bianca Belair because I am.
We weren't supposed to announce it.
Oh my god!
I'm just messing. Well, I was not messing with you, but we went from 10 to 1. But okay, no worries.
My bad. I'm excited. But now they know, so they get with the program. But still, I am excited still for everyone else. I mean, I don't know everybody else though. You know, I could be lying. They don't know that.
Yeah, you call Heyman right now.
I'm very sorry, Heyman. I'm sorry, Tribal Chief. I apologize. Do not harm me.
Anybody else? Emily, let's see if your audio works.
Oh. No.
Oh Lord.
I'll go.
Yeah.
For me, of course, I was on the committee, but overall, I was pretty happy with it. And obviously, wrestling is subjective, and of course, some people wanted some people higher, some people we thought could be lower, and so it came down to compromise and all of that. But overall, I must say I'm pretty happy with this list.
All right, so let's get into number 10, even though number 1 was already announced. We'll get into number 10. Raquel Gonzalez. She wasn't even ranked last year. She's been in the game for 7 years. I mean, I remember I was first introduced to her through Mae Young. She's been doing a phenomenal job. So how did you guys come to the number 10 spot?
Well, typically, I mean, the easiest way to do these lists is going by title holders. I mean, that's really these. Or you start with a promotion and you go, who's held titles this year? Or, the evaluation period. And so NXT, I mean, any of those promotions that are on TV a lot need to get that attention because they're the ones that are obviously seen the most. But she's held the title for so long. And I mean, it's no surprise that she didn't rank last year, and then this year she just skyrockets because that's sort of where her career path has gone over the last year.
What do everybody else think?
I thought it was personally she's definitely had a standout past year. She's been pushed to the moon and back ever since late last year at War Games and then defeating Rhea Ripley and obviously pinning Io Shirai in War Games, if I'm correctly. So she's definitely had that momentum going forward. And again, as NXT Women's Tag Team Champion, and then that led up to her big win at NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver. So she's definitely been on this upward trajectory for the last year, and it's been pretty consistent. So I think number 10 for her is a pretty fair spot. She's definitely been trusted in NXT.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. She definitely went from she was on NXT, but not as much. And then once we knew it was okay, they're gearing for us to have her as champion soon, it was obvious. She kind of just went up on such a good trajectory that I'm okay with her being number 10 on the list. I feel like she's been a pretty cool champion and she's been dominant. And I love Rhea Ripley, love her. But, it's also good to see women of color become champions. That's always such an important thing for me as a wrestling fan, to see other women, that's not, So that for me, it was great that she was able to do that. And to be number 10 and never ranked before, it's an amazing spot to debut on.
I thought you were going to say something, Santana. What I did like, though, is it was like she either knew or she was prepared for it. Just her body change, how she trained. And, when she won the belt and you saw the before and after pictures, the before was, there was nothing wrong with the before, but just how she changed her body to be champion-esque was amazing. So definitely kudos to her. So Kristen, you're going to have to help me with some of these names. So I'm not very versed. So okay. We're going to go into the number 9 spot. Tam Nakano.
Tam Nakano. Yeah.
Tam Nakano. So I'm, because of PWI and because of following bells to bells, I'm getting more used to a lot of the Japanese, or more introduced to a lot of the Japanese wrestlers. So tell us a little bit about Tam, and then, why she earned this number 9 spot.
Well, she's had, an incredible year. If you are familiar with Stardom, or even maybe watch some Stardom, you can tell, technician-wise, they're insane. They're training, all day. It's not like here where, they're on, no offense, but you see them, on the beach and, they're constantly training. And so
Mhm.
their technical ability is just nuts. She won the Wonder of Stardom championship. She's held that for like half the evaluation period, which is a huge, huge deal. I think she was in some of the Wrestle Kingdom. Yeah, she was in a dark match on Wrestle Kingdom, which is Stardom Girls is I mean, that's like if you're picked to be on a dark match for Wrestle Kingdom, that's a huge, huge deal. And she's really one of the leaders, at least with Stardom, as far as, storylines go and, interest. And I mean, in the ring, it's hard to beat her. It really is.
Ella?
Agreed too. I mean, again, going into this, I am not who was one who is very familiar with a lot of the Joshi wrestlers, but that is again one of the names that even if you don't know a lot of Joshi wrestling, Tom Nakano is definitely one name who's always in the conversation with like Julia and Syuri, and of course, Utami. And so I feel like her name is always I've seen like consistently like on Twitter and timelines. So definitely noteworthy. Like, even if you don't follow it necessarily like myself, she's definitely one who's absolutely dominated this last year.
The question is, I don't know if you can speak to this, Kristen, like as far as, because we had Sasha Banks, she went over to train there, and we hear about Stardom a lot. We hear about training over in Japan a lot. Do Japanese wrestlers look at WWE or American wrestling like, I need to get over there? Or is it more of, well, if it happens, it happens? Like, what's the mindset?
I think it depends. I mean, it's like here, there are lots of women who go over to Japan to train and they do their runs, but not everybody wants to do that because it's all up to what you want to do. We actually have an interview with Yuka Sakazaki coming out this weekend, and the wrestler that inspired her to be a wrestler was Eddie Guerrero. So, I mean, they pay attention, which was like, I thought like Ami Sakura, like I was told to guess, and I'm like, Ami Sakura. I didn't know that they paid so close attention to here, but they do. They really do. Hana Kimura was always wanting to come here. And frankly, they do like to come here for certain events. Like they always want to come for Wrestle Kingdom, but it just depends, I think, on the wrestler. Like not every woman wants to go to Japan and train. I think it all just depends on your desires as a wrestler, really.
Okay. So we're going to go to the number 8 spot, Io Shirai. So she's been in the game for 14 years. She looks like she's 12, so kudos to her. And she's ranked in 2020 the number 9 spot. So incredible run. I love what she's doing. I feel like they're giving her more personality now, opposed to, sometimes, and I love me some WWE, so no knock to them, but sometimes they just really pen to the stereotypes. And I really like the fact that, they're expanding beyond that. So what did she do in deserving of this number 8 spot?
I mean, what did she do? Right? Like she was like the belt holder, frankly. I mean, we talk about Raquel, but she was the belt holder. And they couldn't find, in my opinion, a decent feud. But I think that's because it's really hard to stand up against Io. I mean, she's incredible, right? And she's Stardom, right? She's Joshi. She comes from that area.
Mm-hmm.
She's just incredible. I remember last Halloween Havoc, I know it's coming up on a year now, her match with Candice LeRae. And then you got to see like old Candice LeRae.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought that out in each other. I mean, she's always a showstopper. She's always a favorite. I know a lot of people don't care for Poppy, but I really like her entrance music, and it had nothing to do with her ranking. But like, how do you not love Io? Really? I mean, how do you not adore her?
Honestly, yeah, like Io Shirai was champion, whether it was the NXT Women's Champion or the NXT Women's Tag Team Champion during this evaluation period. There was really only a 2-month period in her absence that she did not hold any championship, like 2 or 3 months. So she was champion for a good majority of the year. And of course, she had great matches against like Mercedes Martinez, Toni Storm, Dakota Kai until she lost it at TakeOver Stand and Deliver. And I think it's really telling that Io Shirai has been top 10 for 4 years in a row. That itself, I think, thinks speaks a lot of volumes to her, and she's entertaining as heck. So Io Shirai at number 8 just feels right.
I agree. And I love how that she is with Zoe Stark, and Zoe's kind of bringing out that personality for her that she kind of like luster to. She's always so serious, always so wild and crazy and whatnot. So to see her be with Zoe, trying to give her some type of personality and whatnot, and actually be defending these tag team titles, it's amazing. Like it has been a really, really rocky journey for her with her holding the NXT women's title. But nonetheless, it doesn't take away from her talent. She has one of the most crispy moonsaults that I have seen in a very, very long time. It's everything. And I'm such a huge fan of Io.
Yeah, same. I was fortunate enough to kind of be introduced to her style of wrestling before NXT. So I got to see a lot of her Joshi stuff. And she was always like super badass. So when she got to WWE, it's like, yay, more people can kind of see her do her thing. And like Santana said, her moonsault is like perfection. It's just always like she does it, effortlessly. And then she's kind of tiny. And I'm always for the tinier, more women who's kind of on the tiny side doing great things. Because it's like, yay. If I could wrestle, that would be me, kind of, but do it for me. So I always like seeing like smaller women just do really awesome things in the ring, and she definitely was like an amazing champion in NXT. I always a fan of a lot of them, but it's like, yay, she gets her time to kind of be like dominant, and the match with her and Candice LeRae, if nothing else, should have definitely put her. Like, if you wasn't checking for her before, you should be checking for her after that match. So definitely glad that she's in the top 10.
Also, can we talk about that War Games trash can last year? I just totally remembered that. That itself was iconic, too.
Definitely.
So question, when you guys, for the period of picking the 150, what's month to month? Like, when do you start and when's the cutoff period?
For this one, it's December 1st, or not December,
October
1st, until September 30th. So
okay, so that was part of. I feel like we're still in the pandemic, but that was part of the pandemic. I don't know. I'm confused. Yeah,
no, it definitely was, and it was still hard to pick 150 wrestlers. So.
And did you count that as part of the criteria? Because there are some wrestlers, I guess when you're talking more, WWE Impact, where we're watching television, it's live, to like carrying the show with no audience, like that took another skill in itself. Was that a part of the criteria as well?
Well, I mean, the it factor I think would probably play into that, but a lot of it is we had to adjust the number of matches. Like typically, you need 10 to qualify within the year. Normal years, everybody qualifies. It's really hard to not qualify. But this year, and even the last list, we had to change it to have 6 matches total over 6 months. So it just meant that you were active for like half the year, essentially. So, I mean, that's all stuff that you think about. But typically that's like push or it factor. It more came down to like, were they just active? And of course, like the bigger promotions, they are active, right? That they have the TV contracts, they have all that stuff. So yeah.
Right. So let's move on to our number 7 spot. Another help with this name.
Syuri.
Syuri.
Like sure, and then E. Yep, Syuri.
Syuri. So there's, it harkens back to Ella when we did the interview with Shazza McKenzie.
Shazza. She's still doing it.
I'm still terrible.
Well,
but
I didn't know about Syuri's name until like I was saying Syuri. Like
that's why I said that too.
But then I was preparing for the oral sessions thing, and I was listening to actually John Pollock on Post Wrestling, and he said Syuri, and I'm like, oh, have I been saying it wrong this whole time? So yeah, Syuri, I guess.
Syuri.
My bad.
So she's in the number 7 spot again. So what kind of qualified her to be in that 7th position?
So Syuri, I actually had the opportunity to interview Syuri and Julia, who are part of a tag team, well, a faction really, called Donna Del Mondo. And Donna Del Mondo is, in a sense, the faction really right now of Stardom. They are tearing it up. They hold all the titles. her and Julia hold the Goddesses of Stardom Championship, which is like their version of tag teams. And she also holds the SWA, which typically is meant for like foreigners. So like usually like Bea Priestley will hold it, or like, you know, people like that. Like I think Thunder Rosa held it at one point. I feel like maybe I'm mistaken.
So did Jamie Hayter.
Yeah. So it's meant to be for foreigners, but because of the pandemic, and she's actually not completely Japanese, so they let her hold it for that reason. But she has a background in MMA. She's incredibly intense. Like when it was a written interview, but you could tell through her answers that she was all business. Like Julia was very sweet. Shirai is there to kick your ass, and you can tell. And she does, I mean, incredible in-ring work. She does the stare down. She has wins over like the top women. I mean, there was back in June a really good fight between her and Utami, and Utami's number 2. And they got a count out. So she's incredible. Like she, hands down. I'm surprised, frankly, Shirai isn't higher on the list, if I'm being honest.
Wait a minute. How are you surprised? Aren't you the person who...
I don't get to make the list.
We all didn't get what we wanted in this list, TK. I will tell you that.
Let me tell you, I'm happy with the top 5. I'm happy with the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually had a different number 1. So we have to debate. We have to, and it came down to a tiebreaker vote. Half of us had a different number 1.
Ooh.
So I mean, we don't get to like. It's not. I'm a fangirl of Shirai. I don't get to like make her number 1. You know. I mean, Utami had a better year than she did, but Shirai, you know, the 12 years pro. I think if there was like a Japanese version of Thunder Rosa, this is Shirai. She's been all over the place. She was in CMLL. She's been everywhere. She's got multiple sports backgrounds. You know, if you watch anybody's matches in Stardom, you really got to watch some Shirai stuff. It's incredible.
Okay, well, we have to get back to when we get to our number 1. We're going to find out who you wanted your number 1 to be. So we'll get it. We'll get into
Ella wanted
that.
to say one or not. I can't remember if Ella. I don't know. Actually, it was kept secret. So.
I mean, we'll get into it. So our number 6 spot, Sasha Banks, who had an incredible, crown jewel. Like they all did an incredible job, and I'm really happy. Shout out to WWE for giving the ladies, you know, more than 3 minutes. So that was great. They had an incredible match. And she's dropped a little bit, but you know, there's reasons why. So kind of give us the breakdown of how she got into this number 6 spot.
Well, you know, she had the SmackDown Women's Championship, but I think probably the biggest thing is that, you know, she did lose it at WrestleMania. Like she was there, of course, and you know, could tell by after the match, just her laughing and being all excited was she was happy with the result. But you know, was she there the whole? Can't remember if she had some time off either. Yeah, she had a couple months where she wasn't there during the evaluation period.
About 4 months.
Yeah. So, I mean, that comes down to it too. Like Bayley wasn't that high because she's been gone for so long, kind of thing. Like we know that they're really great in the ring. It's got nothing to do with that, but we have to account for like activity and how long they've been on TV, kind of thing.
We have the Wrestling Classic voicing their opinion. Sasha should always be number 1. I mean,
yeah, I agree. Like, trust me, I'm a Sasha stan. She's number 1 in my book all the time. But, you know, and the thing is, she did take off time to act. But also, we thought like that was a reason to put her in the top 10 is because she's brought, like when people talk about the Bellas, you know, she's brought new eyes to wrestling. She definitely has.
Any other comments?
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. Like Kristen said, like Sasha Banks is always fantastic, but it's also taking into account activity. And so I think that's really primarily the reason why she dropped a bit. Nothing to discredit her in-ring work. She's been fantastic and main evented WrestleMania, but it's just taking into account her absence too from wrestling. But go on, Kat. I know you wanted to say something.
Oh, no, I was just gonna agree actually. Like I love Sasha Banks. She's what I would call like iconic WWE women, like the women that just kind of stands out. And I definitely agree with her being on The Mandalorian, kind of putting eyes on wrestling if you wasn't a wrestling fan before. Because I remember the episode after, but it was like, she did a wrestling move, and they kept saying she did that, and it was like, well, if you didn't know, you know now. But I would agree also, it's like she was missing quite a few times when, you know, we thought we would get Sasha in something, and then we didn't get Sasha for a few times. So I definitely understand her being lower. Like, Sasha's great, but we can't like discredit the women that were kind of grinding like the whole time. And so for that, I definitely understand like why she's 6.
You have to understand the top 10 too is, well, really the top 20 was incredibly competitive. And sometimes it came down to one thing. Like the number 1 and number 2, it came down to like intangibles versus work rate. I mean, it came down to one thing. And so like Sasha in my book would be above some other women, but it really just comes down like to 1 or 2 things. It was hard.
Are we gonna find out what your personal list is as we're getting closer, or are you gonna keep?
Well, I don't know that I even have my personal list anymore. I don't make them anymore because I find they just completely change. But I will tell you my number 1 when we get there.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Cool. I'm cool with that. Santana, do you have anything to say about Miss Sasha Banks?
I will say that I do agree with each and every one of you. Sasha is top tier. She is amazing in the ring. Maybe not on the mic skill, but she definitely can do her thing in the ring. And for her to go to, you know, being a wrestler and then going into the acting field and going to travel, and even on the time when she was not in the ring, or she was in the ring but not necessarily on TV wise, she was still working, learning different moves, learning how to improve her craft. And when we've seen a lot of the moves she's been doing now since she's gotten back, you know, for her second return, and hopefully she stays after Ground Jewel and whatnot. But I'm happy with Sasha still being, you know, in the top 10. You know, last year she was in the 3rd spot. So her going to 6, I still believe that she deserves that 6th spot.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, yeah, we'll see if she stays. I mean, Sasha's. I don't know if she's gonna be on the trajectory of like The Rock and Cena, but I think she's definitely on her way to have some type of career outside of wrestling where we're gonna see like a half foot in, half foot out type thing, because you know you can't really get bigger than Star Wars. And then, you know, now her face is everywhere. So, you know, and then I was actually looking, and there's like this website that shows all your agents and managers. She has like 4 of them. So,
oh yeah, she's got that like attitude too, that if you don't give her what she deserves, she's just gonna go find it elsewhere. So
yes.
Yeah.
Deserving. I'm not necessarily, you know, I don't know about this spot, but love the fact that she is on this list. Thunder Rosa, the number 5th spot. She is absolutely incredible, and she's done so much in a very short amount of time. Like, I really don't think she sleeps. So how did she come to this spot? And here's my prediction. Next year, this time, she will be in the number 1 spot.
That's bold.
Well, you know,
I'll start with saying why she wasn't higher was because she didn't hold a major title for really the evaluation. For the first couple weeks, she held NWA, right? And then she dropped it to Deeb. And then towards the end, she had Warrior Wrestling that she won from Kylie Ray, but that's not really necessarily considered like a world championship. So that's really the only reason why she wasn't higher, frankly. A lot of the reason why she's so high, not only because she's everywhere, she has been like the forbidden door, but because she's creating opportunities for women. And that was like really an important part of why we ranked her so high, was that she's making room at the table. And she's, you know, I've asked her specifically, like, are you getting the women the bookings from Mission Pro to all these other, and she'll say no, they're getting it on their own, which they are, but I happen to know like she's definitely helping them out, and that's amazing. I mean, to spend that time pushing other women, and not just in the ring but backstage,
right?
That's incredible. Not to mention she had the lights out match, was like one of the best matches in women's wrestling of the
year.
Right. Yeah. I mean, not to mention all the work she does in only 7 years pro. And, you know, when WoW went under the first time, we thought, okay, well, you know, this is going to be kind of it for a lot of those women, but she was one of those that bounced back really hard. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Well, I did just do like the article on Thunder Rosa, so I'm a huge fan of hers, and that was one of the things I mentioned. I believe in my top 5 was literally about the Mission Pro wrestling. Women's wrestling, it's grown for 2021, but there's still those people who kind of diminish what women wrestlers do in the ring. And I like that she goes out of her way to not only have the all women's promotion, but she definitely is like making sure her people get opportunities. And like a lot of them did show up on AEW, which was like super amazing. Like you got Big Swole, and I love her. And so you got like all these like cool other wrestlers popping up, and then for all the things that she done and just her career in general, like all the titles she's held over the years, and just even her popping up at AEW, where like Kristen said, her being kind of the forbidden door. Like she was literally, I think, the first, I believe, wrestler to make the appearance from another promotion in AEW. So that in itself, and then to be part of the first main event for AEW that featured women, just in this year, like the year bracket is just amazing in itself. And she's like usually in one of those kind of moments that's like, this is a good moment for AEW, and she's in that moment. So I'm okay. I don't know if I would put her 5, but definitely top 10. I definitely feel like she's top 10 because she's done so much. Like I said, just within the last year, she's done a lot for wrestling and for putting women's wrestling on the map and just being like great. I feel like she makes people's matches better when she wrestles. Like she forces her opponent to be better because she's so good in the ring.
Very true. Yeah, I think that when we get into this next one, then I'll refer back to Thunder Rosa. So our number 4th spot is DMD, Dr. Britt Baker. Wow, she's been, I think, less years than Thunder Rosa, so 6 years pro, which I still can't believe, because I swear, like even when we started with women's wrestling talk, it was just kind of like we've been around for 4 years, so that makes sense, but it feels like she's been around for a lot longer. And I think that she is the ultimate mean girl that you love to hate. Like I love the fact that it's just like she's just so good at being mean, but she's also so nice in real life. It's very weird. That crossover is like, is wrestling real type stuff. But I'm kind of happy with the spot, and I think that once Britt Baker makes her run, I think Thunder Rosa might take the belt off her when they're finally like, okay, it's time. I think it's going to be Thunder Rosa's time.
Yeah, the thing with Britt too, and I'll start with why she's not higher, because I made a joke to Renee that I'm probably going to get like a lot of hate that we didn't make her higher. And I mean, there is an argument to make that she could be higher, but I think really activity-wise, again, right? And that's not her fault. It's not her fault that she wasn't on TV a ton. That's management, right? But that is, again, something that you have to kind of think of, is that she has the belt for half the period. Not even that, I don't think. And then she just wasn't on TV a ton, in the ring at least. But what makes her so compelling is like her in-ring work. I mean, not just the talent and the skill sets, but the she always knows where that hard cam is. Always knows where that hard, and is always cheesing up to it. Is always, making faces and knowing what her next move is. And it's so hard to not love her. And I've been to multiple cities for AEW with shows, and they all love her an extreme amount. I mean, the pop, it's sometimes, and I was there for the CM Punk pop, and it got pretty close. Same thing with Thunder Rosa. I mean, it's a real thing. They love her. I would argue she is the face of AEW quite often. Yeah.
There it is. And Emily, she had some audio issues, but she definitely said something. The TBS belt is something we considered, which might make it a little bit harder for you two next year, even harder than it was this year. So good luck.
Those are great problems to have, though, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of what made it so great, was we have all these women's divisions being revamped. We have belts being reintroduced, introduced. There's new talent, and now all these women are getting signed from the indies. So then all these other women are going to come up that we haven't seen yet. And it's a really good problem to have. Nobody's complaining here.
Very, very true. Anybody else?
I think Britt. I think Britt at number 4 is rightful. I know some people are like, why isn't Britt Baker higher? But like Kristen said, she is the face of AEW and did hold the championship. But even when she wasn't always in ring competition, she was always on TV making promos and all of that. But she was also injured for a bit too during this evaluation period, which took her out of in-ring action for a few weeks, if not months. And so Britt Baker, to me, I feel like is rightful at number 4. The 3 people above her were obviously a lot more active. And so, I mean, I know some people might differ because she is arguably the face of AEW and definitely the face of the women's division. But to me, Britt Baker at number 4 sits right, especially with the people ahead of her.
Yeah, and you have to think of quality of competition. So not to say that the women's division in AEW is crap, because we know better than that. But there were a lot of women in like the top, like Chris Statlander, that were out. They were out and they weren't participating. So you were relying on Tay Conti quite a bit, which is not a bad thing. But, she does not have as much experience. So quality of competition for Britt during that time wasn't always the best either. And yeah, I mean, we don't want to punish women for the decisions of management.
No.
But, there's a reason I think that, their top woman is not higher. It's because there's no match times that we're seeing. Not that WWE is any better, let's be honest, but, so hopefully this sort of kicks AEW in the butt a little bit with this new title, and maybe we'll see a lot more women. I'm hoping. Yeah.
There it is. Santana?
For me, I do like Britt Baker. There was a time where I'd never, like, with her not wrestling that often, I never knew how good she was in the ring. And until I saw her match with Ruby Soho and Chris Statlander, I can tell that she's really, really good in the ring. And when she cuts her promos, it's everything. She has the crowd's attention. She definitely is that face of the women's division for AEW, although it lacks luster, but not because of the women, because of how they book their matches and whatnot. So I feel that maybe next year Britt could be higher than the number 4 spot. I do feel like she could be that way, because right now she's on a high. She's not. I don't feel like she's losing that title anytime soon. Anyway, like Britt is a favorite. Like she is so over to the point where I feel as if like if they would let her lose to the wrong person, it would be a riot.
Agreed.
Yes. No, I don't see her dropping the title at all anytime soon, frankly. Give her some time to run with it. Yeah.
Katrina?
So I'm going to probably get some slack for saying this. I do not think she should be number 4. And I know it was a hard thing, but the fact that she wasn't actually wrestling for so long, like there was parts when she really was not in the ring. And while I love a good promo work, I love that get me invested enough that either I want to cheer for you or I'm like, ew, you're bothering me. I want the person to, get this win over you, because that's me. If I hate a heel enough, I'll be like, okay, you just kick their butt in the ring and it's all good. So I do admire her promo work, but I'm also, again, where like how the Thunder Rosa match, where I know a lot of people focus on the fact that she bled through the match. I felt like Thunder Rosa had a lot more, and at least for me, I felt like I can tell the difference between the two of them in the ring. And for that, I wouldn't put her. I do think she's definitely top 10 because she has had a hell of a year, especially after winning the title. And then she does have that, like you say, TK, you kind of want to hate her because she kind of have like that arrogance a bit. Like you're like, ew, can we not? Like I wouldn't necessarily like you in school or something like that. But I wouldn't put her top 5. I would probably put her like maybe 8 or something if I was like putting her on the list, but not top 5. I don't think, because she did miss, and I know it's not necessary, it's not her fault that, AEW was whatever when it came to time management with the women in general, or putting like women on the dark matches, which that's a whole rant I won't get into, but for that reason, I wouldn't put her in top 5 though, because of that, because it's like you had a lot, like some of the other women that are under her were a lot more destroyed, I feel like, in the ring, even with her holding the title. And for that, I wouldn't really put her for. But outside of that, she's great. I feel like AEW fans might feel a way that I don't think she should be for. Sorry in advance, guys.
Pat's Instagram and social media is there, so feel free to tag her. Now,
Oh, ouch. Yeah.
now
well,
this number 3 spot, you know, I got the opportunity to go to NWA in St. Louis, where I got to hang out with Ella Jay in real life, in IRL, and I found out some great things about her. So I want you, Ella, to announce this number 3 spot, since you have so much love for this lady.
Number 3 is the Virtuosa, the Reina de Reinas champion, and the 2-time Knockouts champion, Deonna Purrazzo.
Look at the smile on her face. It's
Aw.
the Twitter
her.
exchange between Ella, Deonna, and Mickie James is absolutely hilarious to me. It makes me chuckle every single time. It's definitely a highlight to my days when I catch it. So shout out to you for that. But yeah, the number 3 spot. So what got her into this spot?
Well, and I will probably get kicked in the butt for admitting this, but I'm gonna let you in a little secret. Me and the editor-in-chief Kevin last night were talking a little bit about actually somebody that we missed, and he said that there's actually a pretty good argument for Deonna at number 1. There really is, and part of it is because she is 2 belts, right? She's also one of those that is opening that forbidden door, and yes, Thunder Rosa did, but Deonna's got the 2 belts. Right. And Deonna, she leaves the other promotion where they're not appreciating her. She jumps right into Impact, plays it smart, doesn't sign any contracts, thinks I'm just going to wait it out and see what happens. And they want her so badly that they give her the belt pretty much immediately. And then she holds it for a while, drops it to Sue for like a month or something, and then holds it again for like a gazillion years and becomes the champion. And she's also incredibly great on the mic, and I know it because she's a very sweet human being. And then she gets on the mic, and like Katrina said, you're like, ugh, because she just has this attitude about her. You're like, wow, just calm down with the ego, But everything she touches is gold. She touches things, and it's gold. And honestly, one of the most humble human beings to media. Me and Warren, we went there also at Empower, and we were trying to interview her, and she's eating. And I'm like, don't bother her. She's eating. And she's like, no, come on, let's do this. Like, she's super kind. Is also a very great technical wrestler, has trained under some amazing people, and continues to improve. And that's something that's really important too, is that she's not just like willing to settle for where she's at. She wants to get better.
Anybody else?
She's been everywhere too. She has been definitely one of the most consistent. And like Kristen said, I mean, personally, and I mean biasly, but also not biasly, like Deonna, there's that argument for her at number 1. Like, she's not only like defended, also defended the championship multiple times outside of the Impact Zone. I'm frozen. Am I not frozen anymore? Perfect.
Now you're back. Yeah.
Deonna also defended the Knockouts championship multiple times outside of the Impact Zone, like against Roxy, obviously also against Fabi Apache. And I think they're the Mercedes one is obviously outside of the evaluation period, but like, she's been absolutely everywhere on the indies and in Impact, obviously at NWA Empower. She's beaten the likes of Jazz, ODB, Taylor Wilde, Melina. She has plowed through this Impact Knockouts division with the exception of Tasha Steelz, I would say. And so she's dominated everywhere, and she's been consistently champion except for maybe a 3-week period. So, and she's just everywhere and is always at the forefront of the Knockouts division. So there's definitely that argument for her being number 1. She's definitely been so consistent throughout this whole evaluation period. And she's been, like, again, much like Thunder Rosa, kind of everywhere.
Yes, and I will say too, we talked about women going around in different countries to hone her skills. This is one. She's been everywhere because she really wants to take it seriously. Again, why is she not number 1? Well, Impact is not seen really worldwide. There are some countries that's really hard to find it, or they're just not really, like the UK. I get people DMing me out like, how do you watch this? So it's just not as seen as much as maybe the other promotions.
Yeah.
But we got these. Thunder Rosa is going to be number 1. I don't know, man. I think if Deonna keeps on this path, I think there's a good argument for her being number 1 next year. For sure.
I could see that too. Yeah, I mean, Impact. I love Impact. I love their storylines, but it's even in America sometimes it's like,
what channel are you on now? Right?
Yeah, like it's difficult. We won't. I'll be like, Kat, I'm not gonna go on my rant because I do love Impact. But here is a question a little outside of the 150. Who do you think can take the belt off of Deonna?
Well, are we talking like in general or from Impact?
Let's talk about Impact.
Impact is really hard to predict because they have a tendency to give title shots to like people who've been there for a while. Like I feel like I always get used to the way that WWE does things where you're like, oh, there's gonna be somebody new or someone they've been feuding with. And I feel like with Impact, it's not as predictable. Like we could show up one day and Rosemary has it, or like I don't know. Like it's really hard to predict with Impact, but like maybe Chelsea Green comes and gets it or something. Oh, that would be like fantastic feud. Friends fighting.
I think it might be Tasha Steelz. I mean, we've seen her kind of go on this singles run momentum. She plowed all the way to the finals of that Knockouts Knockdown tournament and she lost, but I feel like that was really the first time since the split of Fire and Flava that we've seen something out of her. And they've also been teasing it on Twitter too, between her and Deonna and Gail and everybody. So I think we're getting a little shades of this potential singles run for Tasha Steelz. And so I think the fact that they had her go all the way to the finals, granted she didn't win, but that I think is really propelling her forward. So it might be even Tasha Steelz because, like I said, we have not seen Tasha and Deonna one-on-one in Impact. So
there it is. Millie in the chat says 2 years from now, Thunder Rosa will be number 1 after Deonna is. So there's the prediction right there as well. Santana, you have anything to say?
I would say that as far as me getting hooked on Deonna's run in NXT, well, not NXT, but like when she was in NXT wise, it wasn't that great, but moving forward to see her in Impact and literally showing that, not saying that Dodie dropped the ball or whatnot, but just say that she has really grown onto me. Honestly, because at one point I thought she didn't have like no type of personality at all whatsoever, but to actually see her growth, it is amazing. And within the time frame of this list and whatnot, to see her be number 3 spot is solid. Like I will agree with that, with her being top 3.
Definitely, for sure. So we'll see what happens. Another name that I don't think is on the list, and I know why, but Chelsea Green. So she might be a huge factor. Is she on the list?
Yeah.
What number?
She's in the 120s.
30s or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So given the fact that everything that we're seeing from her now, because we know obviously with like the time period of everything, I get that. And then the 40 days out, now she's again everywhere. I'm gonna be interested to see, again, some more difficult decisions for you guys for next year.
She's 135, by the way, just for the record. I just checked. So
135. Yeah. So we're gonna move to the number 2 spot again. Kristen, I need your help.
Okay. I love that because I would normally not be this person. Utami Hayashishita.
Utami Hayashishita.
Yeah, just call her Utami.
Don't ask me to say it again, though. So she's the number 2 spot. Number 2 is very close to 1, obviously. So what got her to this number
Great
2
math,
spot?
TK.
Thank you.
That's analysis right there. Well, I will say this was my number 1. And I came into the meeting with a different number 1. And Pat LaPrade, who is like a French-Canadian women's wrestling legend, he's on these ranking committees, and he convinced nearly all of us at the time that this should be number 1. She's 3 years pro, so she's essentially what you would call like a real big newbie, especially in Stardom. She's a rookie, right? She comes in, She almost like a year later wins the Stardom belt, right? This is a red belt, so this is the belt, and holds it for almost a year now, and has defended against the top of the top, cream of the crop over there in Stardom. Has like every single match she has is a banger. Like there's just no bad matches that she has. I mean, she's really there's a lot of Stardom fans who are not in love with her because she came in and just sort of ran amok on everybody. But she, despite her inexperience, is incredibly great in the ring. She holds herself like a champ, and I know that's not necessarily like criteria, but you know, when you hold yourself like a champ, people start treating you like a champ, and she's one of those that just walks around and just beats up everybody. I mean, she's beaten people like Bea Priestley, right? Like people who have been around in a Stardom for a long time, and she took over. And there were people who, like, I know in the committee ranking meeting, people would say, like, I wasn't really aware of Utami, or I wasn't aware of Stardom. But then I hear, you know, Utami has a really great match with so-and-so, and suddenly they're aware of Stardom and they're watching it. And so she's brought in a lot of new faces, and it's, I mean, there's a thing called push, right? But she's earned it. I mean, she really has earned it.
Anybody else?
Again, go ahead, Kat.
Oh, okay. I actually really like Utami. I kind of new to Stardom. I want to say probably a little over a year. I started watching Stardom during quarantine when I was trying to like find things to watch, and so I kind of just binge watched a bunch of Stardom matches. And for somebody to be so new to wrestling, she kind of like in the ring, like she's a veteran, like very like experienced, even though she's only less than 5 years in. And I like that. And I get like how some fans feel about people kind of getting placed over others, you know, the ones who they want people to work extra hard and have this like struggle to the top. And while the underdog story is good and all, I'm also perfectly fine with a person if they're just talented. Well, here's a push. Like, and I saw, yeah, we know companies do what they do, you know, as far as like background stuff, as far as who gets pushed to win. But she's also very talented. And like, I'm assuming that has helped considerably why she has been so like out in front of Stardom like that is because she's so talented. Again, being very, very new to wrestling. So I'm a really big fan of her. I'm perfectly fine with her being number 2 because when we get to number 1, I'll tell you why. I'm okay with her being, you know, the spot that was for number 1. But I definitely love Utami. I think she's one of my favorites from Stardom. And I feel like I just told somebody like 2 weeks ago to watch one of her matches because it was like this really cool spot. And I'm like, just watch it and then tell me you're not a fan after this. Like stuff like that. And you just get like so into the match that you're like, oh my God. So she gives me that type of feeling when I watch her wrestle, just like super dominant and just really like experienced, it seems like, in the ring for somebody, again, less than 5 years.
There it is. Santana?
I'm not too much familiar with her, but from all of the great comments you guys have given about her, I'm probably gonna go check her out and see why she's number 2.
There's just like so much like wrestling in general, and then I really like the fact that like we really concentrate on women's wrestling because there's a lot of wrestling. There is a lot of wrestling, folks. Not complaining. I'm just saying it's a lot to ingest on a weekly and daily basis. But you know, here we are, the number 1 spot. Santana, since you started it off, I guess I'll have you announce her again for us. The number 1 spot is.
Okay, let me. The number 1 spot is the EST of WWE, the quickest, the tougher, the rougher, the fastest, the best. Like, girl, she go here now, and she's the number 1 spot.
I love that. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious why she's number 1, and I think y'all can probably talk on that a lot more than I can. But here's where we get to, like, literally. Ella can attest to this. There were email chains that I got heated about who was going to be number 1 between her and Utami. And And it came down again to these intangibles versus like Utami's like work rate. And really with Bianca, it was representation and what she stood for a lot of women and a lot of men that didn't feel like they were represented. And the moments that she had were chill-inducing, and there's a reason for that. And she deserves them. It's not like she was given these. I mean, she is talented. But I think y'all can talk probably more about that than
Kat, Ella?
Yeah, like Kristen said, there was a lot of back and forth, but I mean, Kristen said her number one. Bianca Belair was my number one in that final decision. And like Kristen said, a lot of it, influence is definitely a huge part of the criteria. And of course, she was also a champion. And again, that WrestleMania main event with Sasha Banks went beyond wrestling. There was a whole message to it. And of course, like, she got a freaking ESPY. Like, talk about influence, you know, she just really transcended wrestling. And of course, she's great in the ring, has great like charisma and great everything, her ring gear and everything. So she's definitely had great in-ring achievement as the Royal Rumble winner, WrestleMania main event winner. But for me, the deciding factor in deciding was that influential criteria, which, like Kristen said, like, representation definitely matters. And so for me, Bianca Belair was number one.
And the fact that she sews her outfits, do you guys add that to the criteria as well? Because
well,
it ain't easy.
She looks like a star, right? Like,
yeah,
but she looks like a star. Yeah.
Kat?
That was actually one of the things I was going to mention. Just my praise of Bianca Belair is that sis be like sewing stuff, and I can get a button, possibly sew a button. You know, I didn't get those skills from my mom and my grandmother, or I can't really sew. She sews such amazing clothes. Like, you would think that this was a job she had before she decided to wrestle, before she was like doing the athletics that she was doing. But not only, like, I love her attitude. I'm all for Black women not toning themselves down. And I know this does extend past wrestling, when there's always that stereotype of how Black women are. You know, she get to wear her gold earrings, she get to have her long braid. And these are things that, you know, not just in wrestling, but in general, they want women to tone that down, and she doesn't. And I love that. And then even today, I did see the clip of her like one arm pressing Sasha Banks at that match, and I'm like, what can you not do, Bianca? It's like, you could do everything, and she does it with a smile. And even, you know, I believe it was mentioned earlier with Sasha Banks, where like after the match, you kind of see her kind of smiling. Because I think, you know, we all knew just how important it was to see two Black women just main event WWE's biggest event. But in general, right now, at least, one of wrestling's biggest pay-per-views ever, you have two Black women just main eventing that. And so just that experience as a fan, as a Black woman, but just like, she's amazing. Like, she's so athletic, she's so like beautiful, and just, I feel like I'm like super fangirling right now, but she's amazing. And I was happy when I saw she was number one. I was like, like, yeah, gonna have me be extra annoyed today on social media, because I'm gonna be like, Bianca's won. Like, long as we all know who made number one in this list is Bianca, and very deservingly so. And even with her strength with men, like, she picked up, and I could never, she did that with ease. She's just so amazing and everything, and so like humble, and again, unapologetically her. And so for me, perfect number one, like,
yeah,
hands down.
Yeah, I really agree. You just in general, beyond like just sometimes WW, just other promotions, period, they play to the stereotypes. And with Bianca Belair, there's like, it's like that perfect blend where it's just like, yes, because people could take how she is and then create a stereotype for it. So I don't know how she managed to do that, but it's just the perfect blend of, you know, this is how I am, this is what I represent, this is who I am, and y'all are not going to change me. Like, it's just, it's amazing. And it just really dawned on me 3 nights ago, I had a dream about Bianca Belair, which is hilarious. And I saw her somewhere, and I pulled her aside. I'm like, look, I saw you at this CrossFit game, and I knew you were a star back then. I just want to let you know that I've been repping you ever since. And that was literally the dream. And then she smiles, gives me a hug, and then walks off. So I don't know if that's what's going to happen for the rest of the year, but I just wanted to put it out in the universe. I am a super fan of Bianca Belair. What do you guys think is going to happen with her? Because again, I don't want to spoil it. You guys know what happened in Crown Jewel, right?
Yeah.
So she didn't get the belt. So what do you think? Do you think she's going to get the belt again, or do you think she's going to have this kind of thing about her that doesn't matter if she has the belt or not, she's still going to be a star, she's always going to be in the picture? Or what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, when she got pulled up to Maine, she was MIA. And then we got these weird, like, track vignettes from her. And we're like, what are they doing with Bianca? Like, we were for sure thought they were just going to mistreat her. And then suddenly she gets this insane, like, meteoric rise, like, just shoots to the top. And so none of us were predicting that. And she's the face, really, right now of this women's division, because anytime I go to, like, Female Quotient has their talks and sports and women and stuff, she's there. She's like their face. She's their spokesperson. And I think it would be a mistake for them just to drop that suddenly. So whether or not she holds the belt, I don't really think it's going to matter. I think she's sort of like this fifth or sixth, like Asuka is like probably the fifth. I think she's like the sixth horsewoman at this point now, because I don't think she's going to go anywhere. I think they are smart in keeping her around, even if she's not necessarily in the title picture, but they're still pushing her pretty heavy. And one of the reasons why she's so likable is because she is so humble, and she does work really hard. And you can tell she's very grateful for all these. She doesn't squander the opportunities like some wrestlers do, right? They go out there and they do dumb shit. Excuse my language. But, like she's really humble. Her relationship is adorable. Like, I can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
And I personally, I don't see her going anywhere. I don't think it's going to be like, how they sort of, with the 4 horsewomen, they sort of just mix them around. I think she's going to stick around. Yeah.
There it is. So that is our wrap up of the top 10 for PWI Women's 150. Now let us know, so what do you guys think of the top 10? Who should have been added to the top 10? Do you think that Kristen and Ella, along with the rest of the PWI crew, did they mess up? What do you? And again, I said this in the last time that we had you on. For folks who are watching or watching later on, please do not do any hateful tweets or crazy emails. I mean, it's just opinion. It's wrestling. It's fun.
It's all subjective.
Yes, it's all subjective. So please don't come at nobody, except for Kat, because Kat said do come for her for that one. But right. Please don't,
Listen, you can come to an extent. Just don't see me to wear DMs, because that's where I'm like, okay, let's not. But we can do a couple of tweets if y'all want to do that. Okay, I'm ready.
I got your back, Kat. I had Instagram on lockdown with my Big E talk, so I got your back. They're not gonna mess with you when Santana walk in, okay?
Oh, boy. So what do you guys think? Do you guys agree with the list? Do you guys think there should be some changes?
Let me have it.
You mean as far as the top 10 on their list overall?
The top 10, and we can also go into the list overall. Like I do have some of my picks that I feel they're gonna move up next year. I'll start off. I do like the top 10 list. I love the fact that it's all inclusive, because sometimes when you do lists like this, you include like just North America, and there, obviously there's a big world out there. There's lots of wrestling. There's lots of female wrestlers. So I do like the fact that there were people included and the criteria was shown. So now I can go and look at these people and look at their matches and stuff like that. One person that I don't think was on, and I know why, is Naomi. And I always Naomi is always been my favorite, period. And I hate what they're doing with her in WWE. So I'm hoping that will turn around, with the Samoan dynasty. That's what I'm hoping for. But my picks that I feel like people are going to move up, and you guys did mention her, Trish Adora. So she was number 18, and she's done a lot. And I think she's going to be in the top 10 running next year. Sure. Jade Cargill, absolutely brand new. I'm kind of waiting to see. I mean, AEW is doing a lot of stuff with her, but it's just they're doing stuff with her, but she needs to catch up in the skill. So we'll see what happens with her. And then Lady Frost has been on my radar for a while. But then when I got to see her in person at NWA, and then after that, I just started seeing her everywhere. I think she's also going to you know, get into at least the top 20. She was at 52nd spot. So that's kind of like my, you know, looking out there list. And I still have Thunder Rosa as number 1 for next year. So that's kind of like, you know, my list overall. And then hopefully, you know, maybe I'm just start putting it in the universe. They need to do something, Naomi, because this is just getting, you know, absolutely very disrespectful. And yeah.
Another rant for another day.
Yeah.
Another rant for another day, because they are doing Naomi terrible. It makes me so sad because she's so talented. And
PTSD.
Let's hope somebody there get it together with her and she can do some amazing things. Because you know,
it is PTSD when talking about Naomi, because on you right now, and to say that to try to discredit this woman, she's been in this business for over 10 years. Held the SmackDown Women's Champion twice. Sonya ain't held nothing.
Yeah.
So, but we gonna get into that because praise God.
Go.
They helped Naomi last week for real.
They have no reason to not push her, frankly. I mean,
yeah.
Look at some of those Usos, right? Getting in trouble, and they're still on TV every week. So.
Yeah, but she's taking the fault for one of
like
them.
I said, a rant for a different day.
Yeah.
Don't have me preaching. We don't need that today. We don't need that. But as far as like some of the people on the list, like I love Trish Adora. Like I said, I got to see her in person a few times, and just so elegant and just so badass. And the after I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, the championship that she held, it just. I even heard theme music. I'm like, sis, like, I felt like I feel it when she comes. I just get so in her character and her poise, and even the way she worked with Jazz at the Black Girl Magic show in Jersey, which I was actually at, and it was just nice to see her in person. She's also somebody very humble. I saw Billy Starks is on the list, and she's so young. And I got to speak to her actually recently. I interviewed her, and just so like humble, and like, you know, she's young, so it's like obviously, but she's just so like kind and so humble and just like grateful. And I'm just hoping, you know, wrestling keeps her that way, and you know, she doesn't leave different than she came at, because she's just such a sweet person. So it was great to see her on the list. You mentioned Lady Frost, and I absolutely love her. And then she does kayfabe so well on Twitter. So I'm always a fan of a wrestler who can like kind of play off kayfabe. Like we know social media is there, but you can still kind of stay in gimmick to an extent. I like that she's able to kind of pull that off on Twitter, and it still kind of gives off gimmick, even though we know social media changes how we look at kayfabe, because your social media is everything's kind of out there sometimes. So, and Asuka, I love her too, and I get why she was not top 10, because she's actually one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. But you know, WWE kind of did some shenanigans with her too. So just a lot of shenanigans with a lot of people on this list for WWE. Just like get it together. Yeah. People listening in the universe, let's get this together. But
I would say that I was very shocked that Dakota Kai wasn't higher. I would say that. Because I feel like Dakota Kai had a hand in getting Raquel Gonzalez where she is right now. And I was just like, wow. I was like, dang. You know, Dakota, her time from being a part of the Mae Young Classics, and, you know, it wasn't that her run in NXT hasn't been that great. When she went heel, it was like, we got to see a totally different side of her. And I feel like if she was in more matches last year and then going into where the cutoff time was, I feel like she could have been higher than Raquel Gonzalez. However, she has been overlooked for a reason I don't know, because she's great in the ring, she's great on the mic, she has the charisma and everything. And I hopefully with her being brought up to the main roster, she could be a little bit higher than where she was this year. I will say that. Yeah, and maybe even who else? I want to say maybe Jade Cargill. I'm a huge fan of her. I want her to get better in the ring. I just feel like she's not comfortable right now. She has the look, she has the stature. When she walks in, she grabs your attention immediately. I just need her to stop feeling like she's two-stepping in the ring. Once she gets comfortable, she is going to be a beast. Like she really is. And I know they're trying to gun for her to hold that TBS title, but I don't want her to hold that title. I feel like that's just a mid-card title for other women who they rarely use to go fight up on. Get her some more training in the ring so that she can go against Britt Baker. They already got a little something going on Twitter, although Britt said she was talking about Thunder Rosa. But I really would love to see Jay get up there, to be honest. I really would. And I know she will once she gets comfortable.
Stella, you want to go?
Are we talking about like who we think is going to do better next year, or
I guess all encompassing? Who do you think is going to do better next year? I guess especially for you, Kristen and Ella, like who was left off the list that you feel like should have been on the list? I mean, you guys have more of the insider.
I only have one that instantly came to mind, and that was Ray Lynn, who has been working a lot in like Mission Pro and AAW. And I mean, she was like Maryland Championship Wrestling Women's Champ for like 2 weeks during the evaluation period. But she's also been like traveling. She's based in Pittsburgh, but she's done a lot of work in AAW and like Texas and the Northeast. So I feel like I mean, granted, there's a lot of people too, and like there's some people that we forgot that we're like, oh my god, like how did we, So I think she should have been on there. For me personally, I think she's been absolutely killing it and has had some great programs. One person I do think is going to like skyrocket is, I guess, ironically, Sky Blue, who again made it to the top 50% on her debut on the PWI list, which I think speaks really volumes. And of course, she held the CSW Women's Championship and the 0-1 USA Championship during the period, I believe, as well. And she's been getting more opportunities on AEW. She was also at NWA Empower. She's done obviously a lot of work with NWA. And so I think the future is really sky blue. And I tweeted it out today. Billy Starks, like Kat mentioned, Billy's amazing and so mature for her age, still being a teenager. She's definitely the future. And Roxy, the prodigy, the youngest champion ever in the history of Ring of Honor, I think shocked a lot of people by going all the way and becoming the first ever Ring of Honor Women's World Champion. So I think those three are definitely just going to continue to skyrocket in next year's list. Again, nothing's for certain in wrestling, but I'm pretty confident with those three.
Okay.
Yeah, there's so many.
I know, right?
Right now, so many. Trish Adora is the highest ranked during the period unsigned wrestler. So she was the, because like I think for half of it, Thunder Rosa was signed, right? So highest basically indie wrestler, and no surprise there. Like she was number 44 on the 500. She is the future, in my opinion. She is one of those that like has an incredible balance between work too and real life. Like when I email her or DM her, she's not like immediately responding, which tells me that she's got a life, and that's amazing. And she's like probably the most photogenic like human being I've ever seen. Like she's incredibly photogenic. She's incredibly talented, not afraid to get in that ring for like literally hours at a time. Incredible. I think Ella needs to kind of take some love for the Masha. Like Masha was a little bit higher, and then some stuff had to get moved around, but she's at 29. And
I would say that I think, I don't know if it was me, but I definitely went to bat for Masha in there. Masha Slamovich spent a whole year in Marvelous during the pandemic and came back in January to really like wide acclaim, especially with a lot of respect on Twitter and social media from her peers as like one of the hottest free agents. Her debut back in the USA Mission Pro, I believe. She's obviously been at Beyond. She's been at WWR Plus. She is literally traveled from Texas to the Northeast to like the Western.
She's everywhere too.
Everywhere at NWA Empower. Obviously. And obviously at, Knockouts Knockdown is technically after the evaluation period, but Masha Slamovich, I think rightfully so. And also she's held multiple championships during this evaluation period as well. She's one of those names that I think really once she returned to the USA, like blew up, and she's had so many training experiences from Japan. And I think that really gives her that cool edge. And plus she held her own show with Borscht at the Beach. So that itself was really, really cool.
Right. I'm always a huge fan of Lainey Luck. Like, I'm always gonna push Lainey Luck, and not just because her fiance like harasses me on Twitter for it, but because, like, jokingly, but because she's really fantastic. She's got a lot of lucha background. She was trained by Mustafa Ali for lucha and some other people. I mean, she's incredible, and Jade, I get. Like, I'm totally on board with all of y'all. Jade was one of those where we're like, we thought she might be too high. But because of her in-ring stuff, but they pushed her so much. She does have this winning record that to us it was like, okay, well, sure. But I think if she stays on the path and she does improve in the ring, there's no reason why she can't like completely blow up. But I want to say. Sorry, I heard echo. I want to say, like, generally, this list is really inclusive. Like, there's people from every single continent except for Antarctica. And
no penguins, unfortunately.
No penguins. Sorry. But, you know, we did leave off, like, Mercedes Blaze is who we were talking about last night, which we feel a little bad about because she really, she was, like, on the Progress title scene quite a bit. We feel bad about that. Riley Shepard too. I wanted her on there. Raylan was one we talked about after the fact, but again, it was so competitive, and nearly a third of this list is indies alone. Like, basically, if you count like NWA, this is like a third is indies. So it's gonna keep pushing. It's gonna keep getting better. Like over a fifth of it is Joshi. Like, I'm really proud of this list, even though some moves happened after the fact that I was like, why wasn't I consulted? You know, and you know, I've got an ego issue with this stuff. But I'm really proud of this list. I really am. I'm very proud.
Oh yeah, Janaya Kai is a good one too.
Yeah.
There's so many people. Is there any, before we get out of here, any talks to moving it from 150 to 200? Are you guys going to keep it at 150 or?
Yeah, no. When I made the announcement, when we broke the news on Bell to Bells, I was specifically told by Kevin, don't say like don't imply that it will stay 150 because it is likely going to keep growing. Like, the fans want it. It's super hard to fit the people that need to be on there. It's going to keep growing. I don't know if it'll be next year, but and also, little scoopster, not this year with the tag team, but eventually the tag team list is also going to grow because it keeps getting harder and harder. So,
well, there it is. I mean, I think I told Santana, it's like, yeah, we're going to be here for like, 30, 40 minutes, an hour in and nothing, not saying, I love the fact that we're here and we're talking about, there's just so much to talk about. And thank you so much, Kristen, for one, doing this, but two, giving us like this. I love to give people behind the scenes, like giving us the PWI 150 right before it dropped, and trusting us with that. So thank you, PWI, for that. Thank you for Kristen for making that happen. Thank you for coming on the show. I feel like we shouldn't wait until next year to do this again. It's like family members, like, this was fun. Like, why can't we do this again? So I feel like we're going to have to do some more, figure out some more stuff and do this and have more in-depth discussions, like, maybe Naomi rants and other rants that other promotions are faltering on.
Starting TK.
She's like, I'm ready.
But we'll start off with you first, Kristen. First off, again, let me repeat myself. Please do not send any hate mail. This is all subjective. This is a fun thing. It's great to see that we're highlighting women wrestlers. So where can everybody find you to congratulate you on a great job?
Well, and it's not just my list. Remember that. There are 7 people who really, really helped. And honestly, there were a lot of fans and wrestlers who kind of pitched in too. There were other writers who weren't even on the committee who put in their 2 cents on like the Mexico market and stuff that we weren't really familiar with. So it's a group effort. It is, there are criteria, but it's like 7 people making a list. So yes, I mean, you can send me some tweets. I probably won't even see them anyways with my filters, but don't give anybody any hard time. It's just a list. You can find me at Kristen Ashly. It's right there. And it's the same on Twitter. It's KV Ashly on Instagram, and then also Bell to Bells. We have a really cool weekend celebration. Some of these ladies are going to be involved, and it's going to be really fun. So come hang out.
We might even get into more of a rant, so you guys can share our pain. Ella Jay, where can everybody find you? And then also talk about the article that was in PWI as well, so people can look for that.
Yeah. How much time you got? Just kidding. Obviously,
Santana looks like she's ready to go to sleep, so not that much time.
If you go to Twitter, like Kristen right here, if you go to Twitter, there is a link to everything I do with Women's Wrestling Talk and Bell to Bells and everything else I do, a Wrestling Gal podcast and so much more. If you go to my Twitter bio, you can find a link to all of that. And of course, I did write an NWA Empower article, which TK and Kristen, like we said, we were all there. It was such a magical night, and I had the pleasure of speaking with Mickie James, Deonna Purrazzo, and Chelsea Green about that magical night and really the impact and the influence that it had on women's wrestling and really the hopes for the future. And there's a lot more, so you can definitely check that out in the PWI Women's 150 issue as well. So yeah, Twitter is right there at It's Ella Jay.
Yeah. And so is it safe to say that you are definitely on Team Purrazzo, Ella, or you still deciding?
I have an answer. It depends. Do you want the head or heart? I do have an answer though.
We're gonna get to that.
I will say, my money is on Deonna Purrazzo winning. However, I do want Mickie James, but either way, I'm the real winner in this. But my money is on Deonna Purrazzo.
So politically correct. Santana, where can everybody find you? By the way, Santana has christened herself the heel of WWT. So be on the lookout for those tweets. I think she threatened to beat up was it CM Punk in one of the interviews? So there's a lot of stuff. I'm really, just like Ella, I'm really definitely looking forward to Santana and the work that she's going to be doing for Women's Wrestling Talk. Also, too, she is the editor for Women's Wrestling Talk now as well. So just be on the lookout for her. But Santana, where can everybody find you?
Yes, I am the resident heel of everything. So you can find me on Instagram at Santana Muse, and you can find me on Twitter at Driune, Driune, not Druin, because people like to mess up my name. Yes, I am one of the hosts with Women's Wrestling Talk, as well as now the newest editor. You can also check out my Why Did WWE Allow Big E to Be a WWE champion on the Culture Commentator. That's where I feel like my day as a heel began, because I came for everybody who came for me in the comment section. So I had a great day.
There it is. Also too, Katrina, where can everybody find you? But also check out Katrina's article. She did a top 5 for Thunder Rosa. And she also did the panel discussion about that. We are absolute fans here of Thunder Rosa at Women's Wrestling Talk. So definitely follow Katrina. Where can everybody find you?
You can find me YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch and Cat We Trust. And I'm also on Twitter and Instagram and Cat We Trust, but the E's 3. And then, I do write for a Women's Wrestling Talk. I actually have a few more articles that I'm actually working on currently. So that should be up in a few days. And then I also write for 2 other sites about wrestling stuff. So catch me there.
And she's also a Twitch fan, or was it a Twitch partner with Medusa now?
Medusa. Yes. Yes, that should be coming in November. She did tell me, because I was like, Friday's the one day I kind of have for the week, because I'm like so busy with everything. And then I'm a mom, so it's like crazy. So she was like, October, I'll be busy. And I know she's at the Jericho Cruise now. But she was like, November. I was like, okay, November, we'll figure out the date. So that's pretty cool. All because we both like horror video games. Which is
awesome. It was
awesome. So that's pretty cool.
I won't prolong it. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure you're watching. Make sure you're following Women's Wrestling Talk on everything at WWT Talk Pod. Go to our website. It is about 80% done, y'all. I am super excited about it. We have articles up there. We have our interviews up there. We have merch coming out. You can get some hoodies, you can get some shirts, all that good stuff. So go to www.talkpod.com to check all that out. Definitely follow us on all social media, and you can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad. I do not have time to read any hate DMs or any of that stuff, so just don't come at me. Maybe I'll send you Santana's way. Figure it all out. Other than that, thank you guys.
Lose every time.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you, hosts, for coming on. Again, we're going to do this next year, but, I think something, sooner than that's going to happen for sure. So till next time, guys. Ciao.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show